is mainly looking at pronoun agreements. So a lot of these you see his or her or their, so whether you're going singular or plural, and in some cases taking a look at verbs and things like that too. The main thing is making sure that the pronouns agree with whatever the subject is of the sentence. So in some cases you have members of the club, you have someone, everyone. So the idea is making sure that the pronouns are consistent. So if you have plural subject, you want to have plural pronouns. If you got a singular subject, you need to have a singular pronoun. The problem is a lot of the times when we speak, which is different from writing, we tend to use there all the time. So if you have a plural subject, there is appropriate. But if you're only talking about like one person or even one group, a lot of times you have to end up switching that one. So first one, some of the club members haven't paid dues. Are we taking a look at his or her or their dues at this point? Say there. Club members. How many club members are we talking about? Multiple. So if we have multiple, that means our pronoun is going to be multiple. All right. So if we had one of a club member hasn't paid, at that point, then it would be his or her dues. Okay. Someone on the bus left his or her their briefcase on the seat.
His or her.
I bet 95% of the time when you say this, you would say the word there, and that's not saying that you're terrible for saying it. I would say there, but the correct one would be his or her, because you're dealing with someone plus how many briefcases? We have a briefcase. So if we have one briefcase, we're dealing with one person, so it'll be his or her. Shaw, you okay? Well, and and it's not so much someone, but it would be the next one, everyone. People always think of that as meaning all of you people, but you're still only talking about technically one person. So everyone who receives high marks is or are eligible for the scholarship. If you were talking about one person, you would say he is eligible. Everyone would be eligible for the scholarship. So in a little bit here, I'm going to tell you to open up your books. So page 306, I think, which is where the story begins. What would probably happen if I wasn't thinking about it, I would say, everyone open up their books. The appropriate way would be everyone open his or her book.
That's just unnatural.
Because it's different from speaking and writing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the proper writing way, everyone, someone, anyone, we're talking about one person. Now, if I said all of you, that's plural, I can say open up, your books or something like that. Either the grill crew or the manager must give his or her their permission for you to return that half-eaten Big Mac.
Yeah, I want to say there, because it says grill crew has to be more than one person, and the manager has to be at least one.
Either an or and neither and nor are different than saying and. If it said the grill crew and the manager must give, then you're talking about multiple people, it's going to be there. When you're doing grill crew or the manager, you're talking about this group or that one person. If you're dealing with the word or, you go with whichever entity comes last. So since you have the manager coming last, it becomes singular, and so this one is his or her. Where if it were switched, say either the manager or the grill crew, then it would be must give their permission because the grill crew comes second. It's kind of like that whole dependent-independent clause with the comma. If the dependent clause comes before the independent, you put in a comma. If an independent clause comes before the dependent, then you don't put in a comma. Same kind of thing where the rule kind of switches dependent upon the order. But if it were, you're working at the restaurant, either my boss or, say, I don't know, the bartenders or whatever, if you ended with the bartenders, you would go plural. If you said either the bartenders or my boss, at that point you would go singular. And then you get an extra tip for proper English. You never know. My grandmother, as well as too many other Americans, believes every word she reads or they read in the National Enquirer.
The heck is that?
Tabloid. It's like the newspaper. No, tabloid. The newspaper that you see when you're checking out a giant eagle that goes, aliens have appeared and blah, blah, blah. Who or what's the subject?
The national what?
Grandmother is the subject, so it is singular she. This is just additional to the sentence as well as too many other Americans.
This is right. Mine.
No, what? You're okay.
Now you answer it.
You sure? Yeah. So like you would because it's within the commas, you could read it as my grandmother believes every word she reads in the National Enquirer. This is just additional information to many other Americans as well. If Walt Disney World continues to increase its or their ticket prices, Samantha won't be able to afford a Lion King sweatshirt.
It's
Disney World is one entity, it's one group, so it's.
I knew it.
Mr. Can you explain again the thought?
Yeah.
Ingenious.
Tommy, the subject of the sentence. So who the sentence is about is my grandmother. Okay? So
And
I could read it, and I'll take that away then. I could read the sentence as my grandmother believes every word she reads in the National Enquirer. You okay if if it were just to be like that?
Yeah.
Okay. The issue becomes then that this phrase, as well as too many other Americans, because there's comma on each part of it, it is separate from the subject. It's like just giving you another descriptor, another descriptive about a sentence. If it were to read my grandmother and too many other Americans, the word and would then make it a compound subject where it would be plural. So and is a key word that lets you know you're dealing with multiple people. If and is not there, I don't want to say all the time, but if and is not there, there's a good chance you're dealing with a single subject. Right, because you have the word or instead. So if it did say the grill crew and the manager, it wouldn't matter which order they were in, it would be plural no matter what. My grandmother
you have to be real quick.
and too many other Americans, it would be a compound and it would be plural. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like how when we were doing simple sentences, like, Jillian waited for the bus. Jillian and Shy waited for the bus and got a bite to eat. Like, you could keep adding stuff to it. At this point, because and's not there, it's still just that one thing. Walt Disney World, because it's one place, remains singular. So if you had something like government, the class, the team, you're talking about one collective entity, they all end up remaining singular as well. This is just like having either and or. Neither Floyd the dog nor Robin's 3 cats enjoy sleeping on the hard, cold floor. So since you're dealing with nor, you take a look at which comes next. Robin's 3 cats, multiple. Therefore, our pronoun is going to be they. So since it's not and, if this one were flipped, neither Robin's 3 cats nor Floyd the 1 dog, it would be he can jump onto the soft warm bed. But because the 3 cats come second, that's the one you used, and it becomes plural. Instead of nor? So if we kind of did it like this one, so you could say Floyd the dog, comma, as well as Robin's 3 cats, comma, enjoy sleeping on the cold hard floor when he could jump. If we did Floyd and Robin's 3 cats, that one would be plural as well. Or Robin's 3 cats and Floyd. My family looks forward to its or their reunion every year. Which one? There.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good news about this one, you could put either of them and you'd be able to get away with it. Because
Family is plural, but
the argument for putting its, and this is correct as well as yours, okay? So you could literally put either one. The argument for its is how many families? One family, one collective unit, so it's going to be its family reunion. The argument that folks will make, and it's fine with it, is since you're dealing with family, it is widely assumed that means there are multiple people. So since there's multiple people, it could be their family reunion. So this is a nice one where you could literally put either answer and you would be okay.
Couldn't you say our?
our family.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, you could.
Yep.
This would probably be in case if you're not going to go. My family looks forward to its reunion. I'm staying here. Our would probably imply that you would go. Every author has a certain writing style that he or she depends or they depend upon.
He or she.
That's what you were thinking? It's still singular, even though you are kind of in your mind talking about multiple, it's going to be he or she.
Nah, this said all authors have.
They. Yep. And you mentioned have. If you're unsure, you could always take a look at the verb. If the verb's singular, then the pronoun is going to be singular. Now, again, if you were talking, you're probably going to say,
Every author has a different writing style.
yeah, their own writing style, something like that. While they were watching the Battle of the Bands, Mark and Pedro made bets on which musician of Nuclear Toasters, which I've never heard of and made up, would trash her or their guitars first.
Nuclear toasters, that's hard.
Nuclear?
Trash.
There's no U in that word.
Yeah, there is.
I mean, not after the C.
The assumption would be it must be an all-female band, and the pronoun would be her, because you're looking at which musician.
Nuclear.
Neither Jess nor Erica able to go to the movie Saturday night?
Nuclear.
Hmm? Since we have nor, singular, was, because you're looking at each of these, they're both singular, it doesn't matter. 12 is going to be Jess and Erica were able to go to the movies, because now you're talking about both. So you okay with the difference between 11 and 12? And is what makes all the difference. Tommy, what do you think about 13? Since this is one similar to what we were looking at before.
Pitch. It's A. Wait. Pitches is pitches.
How come?
Because if you take out one because Joey pitch for the high school baseball team doesn't make sense.
Yep, it'd be Joey pitches. Now, if it said Joey and his two cousins, they would pitch. It'd be plural. Yep. Good job. Pennsylvania students, along with all high school students nationwide, take. Doesn't matter that you have this along with, because either way, it's still going to be plural. Take standardized test each year. Every person, before a person buys a big hairy dog, he or she.
Chipper nippers.
Okay. So, when you're speaking, I'm not going to go, Tommy, don't use there. You're just talking about one person. But the whole idea is when you're writing, and honestly, it's probably going to be the word everyone that you would get hung up on the most. Because when you write, you'll automatically, or when you say, you kind of go there. When you write, you're just going to go
Where
it.
is this gonna go?
Handouts.
Exactly.
You can go there.
I'm gonna wait till next week.
Chances of us getting through all of this this period are basically slim to none, so we'll just finish it off kind of tomorrow. Would everyone open his or her book to page 306, please? Oh, and this part. What? She never saw me. She never Mr. Scarpese?
Yeah, it's so
I had him as a teacher.
smart, baby.
Mr. Scarpese, I had him senior year, and then I dropped the class. It wasn't his fault.
Yeah, I must have been.
It wasn't. He was. It wasn't in here. It was called like. It was power and energy maybe. So it was still like a tech ed, but it was like making go-kart energies or engines and all that kind of stuff. All right, so for number one, just looking for specific words. How is the first paragraph of the short story different from what you would expect to find in a factual article? We mentioned that if you're looking at a factual article, that it would be objective in nature. Since we have a short story that we're taking a look at, you would expect this to be subjective. So what are some subjective or emotionally charged words that show up in that first, I'm on the wrong page, on that first paragraph of the story? Luke, give me like one or two words.
Unbearable image.
Unbearable image. How come? I like it.
Because like for something to be unbearable, it doesn't want.
Okay. It has to make you feel a certain way. What else? Delana? Okay, so that vast cemetery, odor of death, which you could argue it's, well, you're just reporting the facts, so to speak, but you're still going with like imagery details that tend to have a little bit more.
Could tragedy be one? Alright,
It's like on the line.
okay.
If you were, because, I mean, I don't know if there's a commonly accepted definition that we would use for tragedy. By saying tragedy, we're going, this is a terrible thing that has happened. If you were really trying to be objective, you would go, an incident or an occurrence, has happened. That would certainly be objective. So, I don't think tragedy would be as emotionally charged as, say, an unbearable image, but it would still be there. You also get descriptions of it comes to where the weeping of orphans, wails of the injured, clinging to life. Those kinds of things would also be very subjective. So weeping, wailing, clinging to life. But if it provides some kind of connotation that has an emotion to it, then yeah, it's absolutely going to count as something being subjective. Number two is somewhat tricky in a way. What point of view is the story being told? I think a lot of folks initially go third, but the correct answer is first person point of view.
Whatever her name's perspective. No. Not 13.
Who's the narrator?
His boyfriend.
And keep in mind, the girlfriend is not Katerina, as many of you were putting for your quiz yesterday, but that's in fact his sister, which we'll get to a little bit later. So what is the girlfriend's name? We don't know.
Lily.
No.
Yes. Lily's watching a TV while she's getting saved up.
How does Ralph Carley's profession affect the way he handles his emotional life? So how does it affect the way he handles the fact that he would be a TV reporter? Bottles up his emotions, okay? And if he is covering something, what would he kind of have to do with it? And besides, listen up, besides just saying bottling up emotions, if there's a conflict, or if to take Zach's word, there's a tragedy, what does he have to do kind of with himself emotionally? Not just kind of keep him bottled up, but you probably also have to
Make sure you don't get too subjective.
so you kind of distance yourself from what's going on. You kind of remove yourself from the equation a little bit. So that you do not become too subjective and remain objective. So he tends to bottle up his emotions and he removes himself from the conflict. Now keep in mind, he is not physically removing himself from the conflict, but he is emotionally removing himself. Number 4, opinion. So not coming from the story. Why do you think reporters risk their lives to cover battles or other disasters?
To learn from, to make history. You know what I'm
What else?
Because it's
What do you mean?
cool.
So they feel a sense of responsibility? Or feel a sense of duty? Tommy's a newspaper or a TV reporter. Which you want to be? Newspaper, TV?
Paper.
Okay. You could either cover the story about everyone buying all the toilet paper at Giant Eagle because 3 inches of snow is going to come,
Okay.
or you could cover the volcano erupting in Colombia or wherever. Which one do you want to go to?
Volcano.
Why?
More exciting.
More exciting. So if it's more exciting, you probably tend to get a little bit of like an adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
And
More sales.
when you go to the boss, hey, you sent me to the war zone. You sent me to the natural disaster. I want to get more money, recognition, fame. I will gladly cover the toilet paper shortage. All right, on page 308. So you got to turn the page or open the book if you already closed it.
Sorry.
I know. That's why I'm looking at it.
That's second left in class, man. It's definitely
If there was a second, the bell would have already.
4,
3.
2.
Details about other family members of Azucena affect the mood of the story in 308, and so they're trying to figure out why they can't get her out. What is the detail that we learned?
And her family isn't there to help. Or they all died. They all died.
I'm going to write call on Luke tomorrow so we remember.
They all died. They're all dead. Yeah, they're underwater, so they gotta be dead.